From the Sky Satellite Network, this is Sky Sports.
Important meeting rugby league has ever held. That's what they're calling today's gathering in Wigan as the game attempts to frame its future. Ellery steps into the breach. Hanley, the player, now the coach. He's the board's unanimous choice to succeed Malcolm Reilly. This is the shape of the future at Huddersfield, a brand new stadium for the town where the game was born. And three legends from the past gather as the 14th edition of Rugby League's Bible is launched.
Yes, it has been the most tumultuous week in Rugby League, hasn't it? And here we are again at Central Park, Wigan, for the second of the new series of Boots and All. We make no apologies for being here because it was at Central Park just yesterday that Ellery Hanley was named as the new Great Britain coach. And we shall be talking to Ellery Hanley a little bit later on in the programme. In fact, as we speak tonight, there is a meeting taking place right next door involving the 32 member clubs of the Rugby League that will decide the future for the way the game will go into the next century.
Though approaching its centenary, the game remains played largely along what is known as the M62 corridor. Basically, too many clubs, too few supporters. The study talked about a possible Premier League, how the administration might be improved, on upgrading the facilities, and one highly contentious issue, the merging of neighbouring clubs.
So the game looking to the future. In a moment, we shall be hearing from Maurice Lindsay, Chief Executive of the Rugby Football League. But Steve-O here has been casting his critical eye over all the proposals. Steve-O, what do you make of them?
Well, I think the paper offers very strong recommendations to all the league's clubs. And I think that I, first of all, must congratulate the Rugby League board for doing something so quickly, because we are in dire straits.
Well, you say that, but the game is perceived, particularly on Sky on a Friday night and a Sunday night, as being thriving and vibrant.
It is, but that's on the paddock. I'm afraid that we have a lot of problems off it, and I think that they've got to do something quickly, and I think what they're trying to push for is that clubs have to merge.
Well, you talk about mergers, but what do you say to the chairman of a club like Highfield, who only just survived by the skin of his teeth 2 years ago?
Look, for too long we've been allowing the tail to wag the dog. We cannot do that anymore. We must do something very drastic. And I'm afraid if a few clubs have to go by the wayside, then I'm afraid so be it. All for the better of Rugby League.
Well, that's Steve-O's view. Now let's pick up what Maurice Lindsay, Chief Executive of the Rugby League, has to say about this document, Framing the Future.
We've actually put the confirmed facts offered by the clubs themselves through the market research that we had done for the past year, put it in front of them professionally and clearly. And I think it does suggest to them that unless we do something about the present way that we administer our game, then perhaps there isn't a really attractive future for us.
You did say when you took office at Chapeltown Road that you thought the game might have to contract before it expanded again. Is that the case with this?
I've always felt that. That doesn't mean to say that clubs disappear. What I simply wanted to try and explain to clubs was that years ago we sprang up in various villages and towns as a recreational pursuit, and those clubs who were playing for fun half a century ago became professional clubs, and indeed are still professional clubs. But they are limited in the amount of customers that they can attract to pay, because they might be right next door to another club. And perhaps the money that they're spending is greater than the money that they can possibly generate from income, either off the field or through the turnstiles. And so that the financial pressures that they've got will always be there. So we are asking them to take a look at themselves and see if there is a way that we can perhaps change our structure to enable us to go on to better things.
So plenty of talk about events off the field. What about on the field of play? Over 50 tries scored this weekend in the Stones Bidder Championship. Here now, the best of them.
This is the stand-off Alex Green. Slips a good pass to Jackson. Jackson slips the ball inside to Carlisle. Carlisle gets the ball away to Dave Evans. Has Evans got the legs? He has! That's what they've come for to Tattersfield. Dave Evans. 13 tries last season, and Evans gets this big league League campaign at Tattersfield off to the best possible start. Here's Jamie Bloom from the dummy half. Bloom going to stretch out the arm and try! Jamie Bloom, the South African. Try for Doncaster, try number 2, and they go wild. McCurry, Wakaru's opposite number, just brings him down. So close, he's in. Bloom! Jamie Bloom catches witness goal. They're on the brink of rewriting history here tonight. They have to stem attacks like this, though. Darren Wright has strolled in. Darren Wright brings a hush to Tattersfield. Alex Green. Oh, lovely run from Green. He has support, but I don't think Alex Green's going to need him. That's the try that puts Doncaster top of the tree tonight. Alex Green shot away from the base of the scrum. There was no danger. They're dancing on the terraces here. Harrison, good driving run. The support was there from Preston, and he will streak home. Mark Preston with a great try. Hampson quickly into dummy half. He finds Devorty. Long looping pass to Hagan. Hagan, lovely short ball to Perrott. Harrison is there. Oh, Goulding took the dummy, and that's a great try from Perrott. Magnificent score from Halifax. And St Helens so close to that Halifax line. Nicol limping away while the play continues with Joint. Joint turns the ball back to Goulding. That's a good try, but did he drop it? No, the referee says it's a good try. St Helens have won just one of their last 10 away games. Halifax have won their last 5 home league matches here. So it's a formidable task that faces the Saints. And Hampson off on a tremendous run. Started his second half, looking for support. Preston's there. You can put the glasses down. Halifax are over under the sticks. Goulding, Saints want to get on with it quickly. Here's Joint. Joint's over. Just what St Helens needed. And well done, Stevie Prescott. Wearing there again. Chris Joint. The try has given Saints such hope. Here's Fogarty. Fogarty for the line. And Fogarty against his former club. Great break from Scott Gett, looking for support. Hampson snatched it in and missed him. He held up the pass though and gave it to Hunt. And Hunt's in. They won't stop him. Hampson missed it. Moriarty picked it up. Schuster's there. They will score. Schuster tries. What a match this is. It's a ball out from Nicol to Gibbs. Here's Goulding. Goulding darting for the line. Goulding puts the icing on top of the Saints' cake. The champions are a formidable force, though. An easy win against the Eagles. Phil Clark returned from injury and combined with Dennis Betts to create one of Martin Offiah's 3. Sean Edwards also grabbed a hat-trick. Bradford remain a threat, and Paul Newlove looks in Ashes winning form. The big centre was a hat-trick hero too against Oldham. This was his best. It's Warrington, though, who went top of the table with the win over Wakefield. Slick hands on show here as 5 players combined to produce the opening for the Welshman, Alan Bateman. Don't discount Castleford either. Workington in contention at half-time eventually succumbed, and young winger Chris Smith scorched in for 2 tries at Weldon Road. Leeds, after their great escape at Workington, had too much power for Featherstone. Paul Cook with one of 6 Leeds tries in front of almost 12,500 at Headingley. It was a high-scoring affair at the Willows, 5 tries to each side. Welshman David Young blasting over to keep the Red Devils on course for victory. Results now: Bradford 36, Oldham 14, Castleford 26, Workington 14, Doncaster 21, Widnes 6, Halifax 22, St Helens 30, Leeds 36, Featherstone 14, Salford 33, Hull 28, Warrington 31, Wakefield 10, Wigan 40, Sheffield 16. Warrington then lead the First Division table by a point from Bradford, Wigan, Leeds and Castleford and Doncaster, who all have their 100% record intact. Down at the bottom, Workington, Widnes, Featherstone, Oldham and Sheffield still search for their first points of the new season. Division 2 wins here for Batley, Huddersfield, Hulkingston Rovers, Hunslet over the Broncos, Keighley, Rydale York easily, and Whitehaven against Lee. Top of the table, Hulkingston Rovers relegated last season, 100%ers with Keighley and Batley. Down at the bottom, clubs here searching for their first win, Highfield, Barrow, Carlisle and Bramley. Now to the Premier Division of the Conference. Wins here for Saddleworth, Hemel Hempstead, Lee Miners, Mayfield, Woolston the champions over Dudley Hill, and Chorley and Egremont a thriller there. Eventually it went to Egremont. The first weekend of matches in the National Conference League. So another great weekend of action behind us then, and I wonder who Steve-O has chosen as his first player of the week for the brand new series of Boots and All.
The name Shaun Edwards strikes fear to opposition defences. Few men can claim to play with more passion or pride. His will to win is second to none, and without doubt the best support player in the big league. Edwards' ability to sense the break verges on the magic.
Just trying to cut the field down to size, because obviously I'm not as fast as Martin Fire or Jason Robinson, but if I can cut the field down, I can get there at the same time as them.
Is that just reading the game?
It is reading the game, yeah, a lot of the time. As I said, it's kind of an unselfish effort as well, as you run there lots and lots of times and you won't get the ball, and you've got to get back on side. But then 10th time, if you're not there, you miss your chance, as I said.
Scoring tries is just one facet of Edwards' game. His vision and skills have made him a creative genius. On this occasion, the use of a dummy pulls out the defence in anticipation of the long pass out wide. Once he sees the defence in disarray, the step and speed off the mark creates the overlap. A classic example of how to break down the defence. Another Edwards ploy is the use of dummy runners to confuse the opposition. Notice the two forwards running at the angle to give the impression the short pass is on the inside, when in fact he will use a third decoy. This will pull the defence towards him. The result, a long ball to the second phase of attack, who runs into the gap. Such tactics only come about by hard work in training.
I do practice passing, particularly to my weak side, which is my right-hand side, as most players is the weak side. I think I've improved. I think I'm probably better that way now than I was on to my left-hand side, but that's just through practice, yeah. We do a lot of ball work sessions at Wigan, which I think is vital to any team. And a lot of the fitness work has to be done by yourself. So Westy don't have to waste his time when he's here trying to get us fit too much. You've got to do that by yourself. And when it comes to training, we have a lot of different set patterns, which have different names. It's like another language type of thing. And I could say some names to you now, which would be absolutely double Dutch, but a lot of Wigan players would know exactly what I meant as soon as I said it.
One of those many moves is the running switch to the blind side. Edwards stands on the open side, but will switch the point of attack. This often catches a defence on the back foot. Running the angle, delayed pass creates a gap for his support. Add to this a fine kicking game, and you soon see why he's a target for the crunch tackles. In the past, such tactics often forced him to lose his cool, but not anymore.
I think rugby league's a very physical game. Particularly in my position, sometimes I do get, or I certainly have in the past, I think I've chilled out a lot recently, last couple of years. As in, I used to get caught in a lot of fights and get sent off quite a lot. I've tried to get that out of my game, and so I'm trying to play with my brains a bit more now, as opposed to passion. I think it's a forward's job to play with more passion than me to use my brains.
And that's exactly what's made him one of the league's all-time great players. A man who gives his opposition the ultimate in respect.
Fear is a funny word. As some people think fear is that you're actually scared of them. I think if you don't fear every player on the opposition, that means you're not showing them any respect. And that means you don't fear that they could beat you in a tackle. You don't fear that they could make a fool of you if your concentration level wasn't high. So I have to say that in a funny kind of way, you've got to fear every one of the opposition players.
Coming up, we hear from the new man in control of Great Britain's Ashes hopes. Ellery Hanley speaks to Boots and All at last. Plus, we visit the brand new stadium at Huddersfield that the Fartowners now call home.
You're watching Sky Sports.
In the birthplace of rugby league, a famous club is reborn. The £15 million Sir Alfred McAlpine Stadium is a far cry from Fartown, Huddersfield's former home. The 20,000 capacity all-seater ground has state-of-the-art facilities which will eventually include a golf driving range, ski slope and a cinema.
We recognise that we can't live on past glories, but the past does inspire us to bring back the more successful days to the club. I think part of the problem has been that Huddersfield, like many other rugby league clubs, has possibly not planned sufficiently for the future. It's not been ready to take on board the challenges which professional sport has to do, because we have to recognise there are many other distractions, there are many other sports about, and I think slowly rugby league generally is waking up to the fact that we've got to be more aggressive in marketing the game, not just locally in the traditional strongholds, but nationwide as well. And I think we at Huddersfield are prepared for that challenge.
A new stadium and a new coach to go with it. Well, nearly new. George Fairburn left Hull KR to take charge at Huddersfield, replacing Alex Murphy. And the new coach has some quality players to work with, like Darryl Shelford, who's moved from Bradford Northern. So it's not surprising George Fairburn took the job. What was the attraction of the job? Was this one of the attractions?
Yes, it was one of the attractions, but obviously the main attraction was the club itself was starting from afresh. There was a new board takeover, and I as a new coach was coming in, taking over, and then obviously the new stadium. And the way forward that the directors wanted to go and where they want to be is very encouraging.
Where do you want to be? What are your goals for Huddersfield?
Obviously Huddersfield finished 5th in the league last year, and the potential they've got here, and with the players I've fetched in through the pre-season, I think we can go a step further, and hopefully we're looking for Division 1.
But Huddersfield made a bad start to their promotion campaign, losing their opening game at Batley. So on Sunday they were determined to provide a spectacular performance on their debut in their spectacular new home. And that's what they did against Barrow. A great try involving new recruits Greg Austin and Brimmer Kebby. That was typical of a confident performance as Huddersfield took full advantage of the wide-open spaces. Greg Austin was signed from Keighley during the close season, and he certainly made Huddersfield tick. Barrow did manage to keep in touch, courtesy of a Huddersfield slip which won't have pleased their coach, Phil Everett, capitalising on a loose pass to kick ahead and score. But George Fairburn's side look a potent force in attack, as this try demonstrated. Shelford and Kebby, the new boys, combining with old boys like Neil Flanagan and Ian Thomas for the best of the 10 tries that Huddersfield ran in. Greg Austin made use of plenty of space on the new pitch to score his second try of the game, and Huddersfield delighted a crowd of 4,300 by reaching their half-century. Darryl Shelford casually rounding off a 50-12 victory. The style of the win was worthy of the new stadium, but their coach isn't going to get carried away.
There's one thing in your mind, and that's your results on a Sunday, and what you train for through the week. And obviously it is nice coming here, and you often feel you've got to play the type of football that suits the place, but you've got to play the football your team's capable of playing.
The long-awaited announcement of Great Britain's new coach was made yesterday at Central Park. And much to the media's surprise, Ellery Hanley was given the job to succeed Malcolm Reilly. A shock choice indeed, given the fact that Hanley has little experience in the coaching area. But it did pose the question, will the new Great Britain coach play in the Ashes series?
Well, you know, I think that there's plenty of staff and plenty of personnel around in Phil Clark, and we've got some great players like Chris Joynt and so forth, who are more than equal of myself, and I think that they can wear the jersey with great pride if they're selected and their form's good.
You're still a player, as I say. You're now the national coach. Can you cope with the pressure?
I've always had pressure all my life, and it's something I've always lived with, and I always take everything in my stride anyway.
I must say it's a pleasure to see you actually in the focus of the lens. There's been a bit of a problem with the press. Is there now a truce?
Yeah, there's an absolute truth, you know. I'm sure we've all buried our hatchets and we're all going to get on well, and because I'm sure there'll be plenty of contact with ourselves and the rest of the media. So I don't think it's something what, you know, you can't hold grudges for all your life and so forth. You've got to get on with the job and do it to the best of your ability.
And we all want the Australians beaten.
Absolutely.
The Aussies aren't without problems either. The suspension of prop Paul Harrigan, the loss of form of Glenn Lazarus and recent elbow surgery to Paul Sirenen has rocked the so-called invincible Australian pack. Coach Bobby Fulton is worried that all three could be out of match fitness come the first test. Wigan have worries too. Ace goal kicker Frano Botica looks set to miss at least 2 weeks with torn ligaments of the right knee. The club are hoping complete rest will avoid surgery. And whilst one went out, another came in. Young Kiwi star Henry Paul jetted in on Saturday. Despite a contract wrangle during the off-season, all was well when he left Auckland.
They let me go because they've given Wigan have released Andy Platt for a no transfer fee. So at the moment I've signed for Wigan for 3 years, and for the Auckland Warriors, John Money and Ian Robson, they asked me to sign a letter, not a letter of intent, but a letter to say that the Warriors had first option to talk to me, to be able to come and say, Henry, these are the attractions to come back to the Auckland Warriors. But at the moment I'm just looking forward to fulfilling my contract with Wigan, and I'm really excited to be starting tomorrow.
One guy who may not be starting is Mal Meninga. It looked odds-on the big centre would join London Broncos after the Kangaroo Tour, but Canberra have come in with a counter-offer.
From one international captain to another, Gary Schofield's hoping for the nod from his Leeds teammate Ellery Hanley for the Ashes series. Schofield started the season at standoff for his club, having filled the role with distinction for England and Great Britain on no fewer than 44 occasions. And on the eve of another series against the old enemy, Schofield talked with me about his career in the game. Rugby league's always been your life, hasn't it? Did you never ever think that you might do something else?
Not really, no. I started playing rugby league as an 8-year-old, and as I say, once you start getting picked for representative side like your Hunslet schools and like your Yorkshire schools at 12 and 13, and I decided I want to be a professional rugby league player, and I always wanted to play for Leeds. I wanted to, you know, be another Les Dill, to tell you the truth, and you know, Sid Hines was there, and I say Holmesy, of course, and yeah, I always wanted to play for Leeds, but I made an ambition of mine, and I wanted to be a professional rugby league player, and I dedicate myself, you know, to that. And rugby league is my life. You know, I love the game through and through, and if I can promote the game as much as possible, what I can do to try and get people recognise that there's a game up here, it's not just football or rugby union or cricket, then Gary Scovey's going to help in that way.
I think it's a major problem for you, the fact that you didn't have a settled position last season, other than scrum half towards the end of it. I mean, you seem to have been messed around a little bit at Leeds. Is that fair to say?
I think people would say, you know, being messed around, but I'd say I can't play is, I suppose, an ambition in, you know, in maybe 12 months, 2 years' time, going to loose forward, but I can't go to loose forward with Ellery Hanley still there, still playing out of his skin. Gary Mercer, he can play loose forward, so the loose forward berth's out of it, and my other position, Eddie, really, is stand off. Okay, some people may say, well, I'm still a centre, but, you know, I have, you know, maybe people will say that I've lost a couple of yards in pace, I'm not a centre, but I say stand-off is my sport. I've been there since 1989, and I don't think I've let Leeds down being a stand-off, and I don't think I've let Great Britain down being a stand-off. But again, I don't rest on history. I've got to make sure that form is on the board to be picked for the John Smith Test Series, I say, coming up in October.
I just wonder how you'll feel then if you're not playing 6 for Leeds and consequently you're not then picked for Great Britain.
Well, at the moment, I have started out at 6, and I say hopefully I'm going to put form on the board. But to tell you the truth, Eddie, if I don't get picked, you know, for Great Britain, I'll be gutted, you know, to tell you the truth. From my personal point of view, I've got a record to try and chase in Mick Sullivan, which I need 2 to equal that record and 3 to beat it. But I'm not thinking about not being picked, to tell you the truth. But if I don't get picked, then, as I say, I'll be absolutely gutted, and who knows, the confidence may go. But at the moment, I'm optimistic that I will be selected at number 6 for Leeds, and also to leading Great Britain out come October the 22nd.
Do you have any regrets at all?
No regrets whatsoever. No, and as I say, I wouldn't change a thing in my career and what I've done. If somebody had said to me, Eddie, when I started out as an 18-year-old at Hull, that after 11 years in the game, that you played 44 times for Great Britain, you've captained them 13 times, you've been on 4 tours, then I would say, well, you know, I think you're just pulling my leg a little bit here. But I say that was a drive and ambition that I had in myself, that I wanted to make it to the top. And, you know, I've achieved that. But also, too, there's been many players who have helped me. You know, there's been David Topless at Hull, Lee Crooks, Peter Sterling.
Ellery Hanley at international level, Malcolm Wheeler as a coach, Arthur Bunting, who gave me my first chance, Frank Stanton when I played for Balmain. You know, there's a lot of people who have helped me, and something that I don't forget, and I say that's a thank you to them. But also too, you know, receiving the OBE for services to rugby league was a dream come true, really, and you know, to even have some sort of letters after your name, I think is a bit of a credit, Eddie. But I think that's got to go a lot of things to my mum and dad as well, because when I started out playing as an 8-year-old, you know, they went short themselves, you know, by trying to buy all the best gear, you know, buy the best boots, making sure you look the part. And I say a lot of credit's got to go down to my parents.
You're now OBE. I mean, do you have to pinch yourself in the morning when you wake up and
Well,
say...
it never really sunk in, you know, that I was going to be made, you know, an OBE. And I say Maurice Lindsay did a lot of very hard work to try and get that recognised. But, yes, I don't think it'll sink in until I go down there and meet the Queen and collect the medal, to tell the truth. It's going to be a tremendous day and a tremendous feeling going down to Buckingham Palace and meeting the Queen.
Gary Schofield, who's aiming to get a place in the game's Bible, the Rothmans yearbook, if he wins 3 more Test caps. Coming next, we report on the launch of the 1994 edition, and 3 living legends in the game were there.
You're watching Sky Sports.
A rare miss from Neil Fox, scorer of a record 6,220 points in a career which lasted from 1956 to 1979. Lewis Jones, scorer of a record 496 points in a season. And David Watkins, wearing 6 for Salford, kicker of a record 221 goals in a season. The 3 record breakers were brought together last week at Alton Hall Hotel near Leeds, where they were greeted by Dennis the Doorman, who bears a striking resemblance to Lewis Jones.
How are you, Dennis? Well, looking in the mirror again.
The occasion was the launch of the latest edition of the Rothmans Rugby League yearbook. Current players like St John Ellis and Lee Crooks were there with the record breakers, men whose achievements may never be beaten.
Well, records are there to be broken. My particular case is I played such a long time that someone's got to play, you know, nearly 20 years to break my record, probably. It's a little bit different to Lewis and both David. Mine's the, you know, an all-time one, you know, which I played a long, long time.
Given the way the game is now, do you think it's possible that anybody will ever break that?
No, I think it's a bit too physical now, a lot faster. And no one will play over 20 years. We've got Jeff Gresham playing at present, but you've got to play around about 20 years to probably come near it. If Frano Botica kept on and playing with Wigan for another 8 or 9 years, yeah, he'll be very close to it, would Frano.
Lewis Jones's points in a season record was almost beaten by David Watkins. He's just 3 points behind him.
I'm glad to have played in the 50s, to be honest. Because we don't have the characters like we all talk about Brian Bevan and Boston and people like this. You don't have the characters like that anymore. Whether they would last in this game, I don't know, because they would be honed to such a physical pitch that, you know, I really don't know. A bloke like Boston possibly would be awesome.
Are there any players today that still take your fancy?
Well, you don't know, because the character's gone out of the game. You know, you don't have the characters anymore. It's a game that's played by numbers, as I say, and it's so stereotyped. You know, we didn't used to have, Dave, did we used to have any game plans or anything like this? Or,
to win?
No, to win. That's to win. Yes, because and of course, if we didn't play, we didn't get paid. The whole setup has changed. You see.
Is that a view you agree with, David?
Well, it has changed a lot now. I mean, it's the 20th century gone wild, but I mean, he's quite right. It is a fitter, faster game, and Neil has hit the nail on the head, quite frankly. You have to play an awful long time, and one wonders at the pace of the game, the strength of the game, and the physical prowess of people these days now. 5 or 6 years at the top is about all they can muster, because the demands are great and it takes a lot out of people.
And do you think artistry has been sacrificed to cope with that sort of pressure?
Well, there were a lot of great players, you know. I mean, in both codes of rugby, the same thing has happened, I suppose. It's rather difficult, but it's changed so dramatically. I mean, people put far more time into it now than we did. It was merely a sport and a pastime. And he's quite right. There were no game plans. Coaches were really your best mates, and you just hope that they picked you from one week to another. And but players played, and they played well, and it was all off-the-cuff type of stuff. And that was exciting, I suppose. People were more inventive because they had to think for themselves.
But there are still one or two players who can produce the unexpected, and who knows, may just rewrite the record books.
Competition time now on Boots and All. Remember, on this new series, we're asking you to tell us what Steve-O said in the bit of commentary that we've bleeped out. Steve-O, what did you say last week?
Simple, wooden tops. And the winner?
Delving deeply into the winning entries.
Is Kelly Ann Proudlove of Blackbrook St Helens. Congratulations, Kelly.
Kelly, you will win a John Smith's replica jersey of the Great Britain team. Well done to you. New coach, new jersey. Steve-O, what did you say this week?
Maybe he got his no mixed up with his...
Well, he baffles me every week, but if you do think you know what he said, here's the address to send your entry. Boots and All, Sky Sports, P.O. Box 6, Grant Way, Isleworth, Middlesex, TW75QQ. It's Steve-O Says, and it could win you that John Smith's replica Great Britain jersey. And don't forget to keep those letters coming to us for the tackle bag. We shall be delving into the tackle bag this time next week on Boots and All. The address, the usual one for your letters. Well, here's hoping that the big league terraces will be packed to capacity for the action to come this weekend. Remember, on Sky, Friday night, it's Wakefield, Trinity, Bradford, Northern, and on Sunday, Doncaster against Leeds. We look ahead to the two matches now briefly. Steve-O, first of all, Wakefield and Bradford, and Paul Newlove is going like an electric